Good day guys, how are you going? Today we're back with another review, yet another review, and this time we're having a look at probably the most controversial tank ever introduced into World of Tanks, bar the Panzer II-J, which is the Chrysler Good Fun, or I don't even know what it stands for. GF, I think it's something to do with the Wargaming League or some shit. Fuck, I don't even know. So today guys, we're going to start with the history of the tank as always, and we're going to move into the top 3 and the worst 3 quirks of this tank, and then finally go into the brand score, finishing off with some ace tanker gameplay, and then I'll tell you my thoughts on this tank, what I personally believe about this tank, and is it worth the gold guys, so do stay tuned. Also guys, quick reminder that we are still running the 15,000 gold competition giveaway, so look at the link down in the description below and enter there. It is worth it guys, there aren't that many people doing it, so you might as well try and get your foot in the door. But anyway guys, on to the history of this tank. Now the Chrysler K, spoiler alert, was actually made by the Chrysler Corporation in 1946. It was meant to have its transmission and engine placed in the front of the tank, with all crew members, ammunition and armament placed in the turret, including the driver. So yes guys, the driver would have actually sat in the turret of this tank, which is actually really quite odd. However, the project was never supported, never came to fruition, because the US Army really didn't have enough funding at the time. Onto the top 3 quirks of this tank. Now this tank has incredibly strong armor that even tier 10 tanks can struggle to penetrate sometimes. Also, it has high penetration premium ammunition, which is also, I guess, a con, because it kind of negates the standard ammunition of this tank, but we'll get to that anyway guys. Also, this thing has pretty medium tank mobility, on the lower end, but you know, it does have some pretty damn good mobility indeed. But now onto the worst 3 quirks of this tank. Now, although it does have incredibly strong frontal armor, its lower frontal plate really isn't that strong, as I'll show you when we have a look at the survivability section of the brand score. Also, this thing can only travel at 35 kilometers an hour. So although technically this tank could probably do anywhere up to 60 kilometers per hour, it is limited in game to 35 kilometers per hour on flats. Obviously, if you're going downhill, you can get a little bit faster. So this thing won't bomb it around the field, but it certainly will reach that top speed limit very, very easily indeed. And also, the frontal hull is easily penetrated by tier 10 and tier 9 premium rounds, which pretty much negates the armor. And you'll find if you drive this thing that people just switch to premium rounds, and pardon me, it can go through the front of the tank really easily if they're firing premium rounds, which, you know, a lot of tanks will be firing premium rounds at this tank, so that is something you do need to keep in mind. But anyway guys, onto the brand score of this tank. Now the DPM of this tank is 9,900.99, giving it a 5 out of 10. Penetration wise, this tank has 198 millimeters of penetration on its standard rounds, giving it a 5 out of 10. Now gun handling wise, this tank has a shown dispersion value of 0.36, giving it a 3 out of 5, and a hidden dispersion value of 0.167, giving it a 4 out of 5. Aiming time wise, well, this tank has a pretty damn incredible aiming time of 1.9 seconds, giving it an 8 out of 10. Gun vertical movement of this tank is 6 degrees of gun depression, giving it a 2 out of 5, and 15 degrees of gun elevation, giving it another 2 out of 5. Survivability wise of this tank, now this tank has serious amount of frontal armor, like a pretty insane amount of frontal armor, but it isn't immune. I mean, yes, there are no weak spots technically, but with over 220 millimeters of penetration, any tank with that can and will reliably go through the frontal plate, the lower frontal plate I should say, of this tank. So as such, I'm giving this tank a 9 out of 10, but let's have a look at this in a armor viewer right now. So having a look at this right now, you can see that even when not angled, the armor is pretty damn effective. You're going to pretty much bounce almost all shots coming to the front of this tank, even when not angled. And the turret of this tank is insane. Like, don't ever try and shoot at the turret of this tank. You're really just not going to go through, really. You're much more likely to bounce than to go through. But you can see this lower frontal plate here is pretty bad. I mean, if anything fires premium round at you, it's just going to go through the front. But I guess that's the same as all other tanks. Having said that, look at its side scraping values. This thing is a monster when side scraping. So, I mean, really, don't try and if it's angling at you well and you can only see this part of the tank, just go somewhere else. I mean, you're really going to struggle to be able to go through the side of this armor reliably at all. There is this little area here that you often can track, especially if it's over angled. So that's something that I would look for if you are shooting at this tank. But really, if it's angling at you like this, you're going to have a tough time going through it regardless. But if you do have high penetration rounds, and just go through the lower frontal plate, and if you don't, then just run away, honestly. Also, something really odd about the tank is it's got these pretty insane angles right here, which mean that you can get some pretty damn effective values on the back of this tank. And finally, guys, if we have a look at the visual model, although it does look like this tank has weak spots, it really truly doesn't. What I'm talking about are these two little things here. They're not modeled in the model, and neither are these little mini turrets at the back. So you are not going to be able to go through these. So do not shoot these if you are shooting at it. But most people know that by now. And also, these aren't modeled at all. So you're not going to be able to, you know, if you shoot these, then you're just going to bounce straight off. There's just no point of doing that. Back to the brand score, guys. Now, the mobility of this tank is actually pretty damn incredible. It has power to weight ratio of 20, guys. That's huge, giving it a 3 out of 5. Well, it's huge for a heavy tank. And an average traverse speed of 28, giving it a 2 out of 5. Now, view range wise, this tank has a view range of 380 meters, giving it an 8 out of 10. And concealment while stationary, or its camouflage value while stationary, not firing and not moving, is 5.3%. Pretty understandable. This thing is huge, and it's just massive, and it's a heavy tank, so it gets a pretty shitty 3 out of 10. And value wise, now this is a very heated debate. The whole reason that this tank became so I guess controversial is because it's one of those tanks that are like the Panzer IIJ, in which it can't really penetrate other tanks because of all these new really armored new premium tanks coming into the game, and even non-premium tanks like the VK and the VK 101P and the Type 4 Heavy, etc. So I think that this tank is not very great in value. Like, yes, it can be fun, but it's also quite boring gameplay as well, because you just find that people are spamming premium rounds at you, or that you're so big that the whole side profile is able to get penetrated from the side. And I don't know, I don't think that this tank is very valuable, if that makes sense. So I'm giving this tank a 5 out of 10 because I'm kind of sitting on the fence with this one. I just don't think it's not great, it's not terrible, it's kind of in between in terms of value. So yeah, a solid 5 out of 10. Thus, guys, the final brand score for this tank is a 59 out of 100, which, although isn't amazing, you got to remember that this tank really isn't as amazing as people might think it is. Yes, it's overpowered in some situations, but again, guys, it's just not in other situations. Anyway, guys, on to the replay. So, guys, here we are on Stalingrad. I'm pretty sure this goal correct. Stalingrad, playing in the Chrysler GF. Of course, is what the review's about, right? So here we are. We decide initially to go over to this area. This is kind of where the heavies go, this kind of D2, D3 area. And then I realized that, no, I don't like that area. It's kind of shit, to be honest. I mean, I'll just come across a Type 4 Heavy, which I know I'm not going to be able to penetrate, and also a WZ 111 1-4, which has a really nasty gun on it. It's kind of just not worth it. So I've decided to go kind of the medium tank route and head over to the, I guess it's the east side of the map, to be able to try and get some shots off. Now, I don't know what I'm doing here. Clearly having a bit of a moment to myself. You can see already, guys, that this tank is absolutely huge. It's got a huge profile, which is a big negative of this tank. I mean, if something gets you in the side, it's really quite bad. But I'm being pretty offensive in this tank, aggressive, I should say, because it does have such good frontal armor. I mean, it is pretty hard to penetrate at the best of times unless you're firing premium rounds from the beginning. But I'm trying to be as cautious as I can, going here to see if I can spot anybody, and clearly I'm being pretty aggressive here. I'm pushing up pretty far, but that's because my team is also moving up, the IS-6 and the FV-4202. Also, we can see that a lot of the enemy team is on that western side of the map, which is pretty good for us, because it means we can push around and start to be a lot more aggressive. So you can see I'm keeping an eye out to the side. That's what you've really got to do in this tank. If you notice a tank to your side, then you've got to angle your tank towards it. We see the T-34 shoot it in its back. And we set it on fire as well, which I always love doing. I mean, we all love doing that, right? But we did get a shot, and you can see there, though, the gun handling on this tank is actually really, really good. 1.9 second aiming time is pretty insane. But yeah, you see here now that I'm actually loading up the premium rounds, because 198 millimeters of penetration, I'm going to struggle with that French tank there. And you can see that I snap a shot off there, but I don't quite penetrate him, to be expected. But of course, we bounce a shot from that AMX. Now, he doesn't realize that I can see his cupola there, but I can see it perfectly fine. I mean, realistically speaking, we could be firing standard ammunition here, but I kind of just really want to make sure, because I want to try and get over to the other side of the flank, because the team is going to get overrun pretty quickly, and that's going to be pretty disastrous. But yeah, you can see we're taking it pretty slow. We know that Tiger 2 is over there. We don't really want to play with him over there, because he will get shots into our side. You can see how easily he went through there. So you can see I'm trying to aim in here, and it ricocheted off the cupola on the top, which is pretty disappointing, I must admit, especially since I was firing a few thousand credits per shell. But whatever, nothing we can do. We're trying to aim in again, and this time we go too high. RNG's, it really isn't being kind to us, and we're trying to bounce a shot, and we do bounce a shot. I'm pretty sure there that he tried to hit our weak spot, or maybe he tried to hit the side. I'm pretty sure he tried to hit the weak spot, which obviously, as we know, isn't a weak spot, is it? I mean, these are pretty... Okay, that was a very lucky shot there. I was going to say, those are pretty tough shots. We're probably not going to get through, but we did get through. Now, that Tiger 2 is going to be... what's the word? He's going to be distracted at the moment. I had a really bad ping there. That's why I went to the side, but luckily he wasn't able to go through. You can see now that at this point, he's not going to be able to go through me at all. I've got the advantage here because he's got a huge cupola on top, and I'm able to just go through. But you can see that this tank is actually quite light because it's being pushed back, isn't it? So don't expect this tank to be too heavy or be able to ram things incredibly well like it can, but it really isn't that heavy. But anyway, guys, it seems that we're taking over this side of the map pretty well indeed. We've blocked 1,500 damage. We've done almost 1,900 damage. And boy, do we have more damage to go, guys. So now, again, I'm being more aggressive. I've still got a lot of hit points, so I still want to be able to kind of go in there and take shots for my team. We can see that WZ-111 1-4 is showing his ass to us. But oh no, we go straight into that wreck. And then that Type 61 just stops out of nowhere, which was pretty stupid in my opinion, but he did get away with it. So we go forward to try and avoid a repeat of that mistake happening again. We shoot the WZ-111 1-4, the Tier 9 Chinese heavy tank in the back, trying to set him on fire, but we don't quite make it. We get another shot in, and we bounce a shot from him in return. Now that's a nasty 130mm gun on his tank, but we still were able to go through. And we sneak in another shot right into his rear drive wheel and track him there as well. So now you can see that I'm covering my lower frontal plate, which is weak, and I'm able to go and pretty much go hull down. I wonder where he went through there. I was able to kill that ISU 152, and that's something you've got to do as well in tanks. You need to prioritize guns. If a tank is even on 1 health, it's still on 1 health and still has a cannon. But I was able to take out that really nasty tank destroyer. Where did he go in there? Oh, having a bit of a glitch here. I'm not too sure. Maybe he went in up there. I'm not too sure, to be honest. But regardless, it doesn't really matter at this point. We were able to go through again. It's pretty unlikely that these tanks will be able to destroy us with our hull down position here, even with premium ammunition. And we block a heat round, which has incredibly high penetration from that Type 61 there, which is pretty lucky indeed. But we were able to put in a shot as well back into him. But I've got to be careful because there's still that Rheinmetall Borsig in front of me, which I need to be careful of. But now I think I'm starting to be flanked. But we luckily block a shot there from that WZ-111 that could have really ruined our day. But we're still backing up, and I'm still trying to keep my turret facing towards the enemy team. And I snapped a shot into that Rheinmetall Borsig, which was something I certainly did not expect to do in this tank at all. And because we tracked him as well, we got so much spotting damage as well. Look at that, we got 819 spotting damage. And then we snapped another shot into the side of that WZ-111 1-4 using standard rounds, guys. So, I mean, although it's not great on this tank, the standard rounds aren't terrible either. Because those Chinese Russian tanks, they have pretty troll side armor, which can bounce just the strangest of shots. And here we go, trying to push forward, trying to get a final shot into that M53, 55, but we donk the shot. We do ram him, but we don't quite get the kill. But regardless, guys, it was a really good game. Ended up with over 4,000 damage, over 800 spotting, assisting damage, and blocked 3,000 damage. But let's have a look in the post-game stats to really kind of get a grip of exactly what happened in this game. Mastery badge, ace tanker. We also get a bruiser, a shell proof, a duelist medal, a fire for effect, and a steel wall for blocking all of that damage. We did put out a lot of damage. This was certainly an outlier of a game for me. I really don't play this tank very well. Out of the 19 shots we fired, 14 penetrated and 16 hit. So this tank really, if you're facing tier 10s, good luck penetrating with the, tier 10 heavies, and you're not going to be able to penetrate with those standard rounds. But I guess on the same hand, the T32 has the exact same penetration and suffers from the same issues as well, and that's not a premium tank, so I guess you can't complain too much. Anyway, 4,127 damage, 3,260 damage blocked by armor, and also, guys, look at the damage from a distance of more than 300 meters. It really wasn't much in this tank. This tank isn't that great of a long distance fighter. It's much more of a brawler. You really want to get into the face of the enemy. Kind of what I did to that the French heavy tank when I got really close up to him, the AMX 49. And he wasn't able to penetrate me, but I was able to go straight through him. You really want to make use of this armor as a really brawling tank. But you can see, guys, we also made a lot of credits. Even though we used a lot of our premium rounds, we still were able to pick up 83,000 in credits. So this tank is a pretty damn good credit maker, and we also were able to get 1,450 base experience there. So what are my thoughts on this tank? Would I get it if I had the opportunity to get it again? The answer is no. I don't think it is that great. I think there are better tanks out there. If you are looking for something overpowered at tier 8, then have a look at tanks like the T26E5 or the Patriot version of that, or the Object 261 I think it's called, or the Defender version of that. I mean, those tanks are going to perform better. They're going to be able to perform more consistently as well. This tank will do great in city maps, but shit everywhere else. I mean, it's just kind of one of those tanks. Anyway, guys, thank you so very much for watching. If you did like this video, please do leave it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you are new. I'd love to see new subscribers, of course. And if you do want to see more videos in the future, then all you have to do is tell me which tank you want to see, maybe. I'd love to read your comments. Also, we are running the 15,000 gold competition. I'll leave that down below, as I said earlier. And anyway, guys, I'll catch you next time.